Do you guys have any rituals before you start the podcast?
Yeah, we give each other a Dutch rudder before we show up.
I don't know what that means. I'm a lady, babe.
My ritual is like usually I go like on a long walk, clears my mind and kind of like makes me go through everything.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you just gotta fucking jump.
Yeah, usually a walk.
Walks are perfect because you're kind of awake. You're like in a flow state. Like
You're only kind of awake.
Like this.
or like kind of.
It's like a meditation, but it's movement.
Why are you guys?
It's like a meditation. You know, like this.
Did you guys ever do that as kids? Like you're running through a forest. How did you do it? Like
That
you're running through a forest. Tree.
The other way to tighten it.
Oh my bad.
There you go. No, it's
And then
so it should be loose.
and then I don't have any sound. Should I have sound? Yeah.
Do you hear this?
I don't hear anything.
Whoa.
Do you hear stuff?
Yeah, I hear so much stuff.
I don't hear anything.
No, Tony, don't do that.
Right?
I watched this clip where there's these two people. They're doing voiceovers for like a sexy time book. It's so funny.
What's a sexy time book?
What do you
Like,
mean? What's
you know, like
sexy?
narrating,
Like
like,
erotic.
Put it in me. And he's like, oh, he spit on my back and my chest. And then he did this. It's so funny to watch them. And there's like laughing hysterically and trying to do cuts, read these books. It's pretty cool that they filmed
honestly,
it.
with your
I
voice.
wanna do
That should be a side hustle for you.
Yeah, that'd be good.
You should read erotica. Women's erotica. Wouldn't he be good
First
for
I had to
audiobooks?
learn to read, but
Brent's first day at the job. What's this word?
he has the best voice, but he can't read for sure.
She gave him
Yeah, can you turn
filatio.
it down a little bit?
Filatio. I don't know what that means.
Turn it down just a little bit. Yeah, right there. Perfect. Thank you.
All right, guys.
No, what it is, it's
we just
it's like a person who does music and they can't read any of the music. They just know how to play. That's how I am. I can speak English. I can't read any of it.
Yeah, Brent can dirty talk, but he can't read the erotic novels.
Yeah, you just intuit it.
Yeah,
He just improvises the erotic books, and the author gets upset.
I was just gonna say the author's listening. Like,
Author's like, I didn't write any of this, but what Brent thought of was way better.
yeah.
So the author's like, fuck, that's actually really good. All right, I'm going to keep it.
He starts writing it down.
Yeah, he scratches out his book. Gonna make those edits later.
Maybe I'll just make one up. I'll make like a 10-minute one.
Yeah.
I'll just freestyle.
You should, dude. You should just, write an erotic novel, and then we have all the recording gear. Just record it. The Two Fun Guys erotic novel.
Oh.
Just take some mushrooms and write an erotic book.
But I want it to kind of be like a children's storybook. Like it has like pictures, but they're like cartoony.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this is good.
Because it's
With AI, you can totally produce that. You just like make cartoons of this 10-minute clip.
Yeah, people do that. Yeah, you could write the book and then figure out what illustrations you need. Well, ChatGPT won't do dirty pictures.
What?
I know.
What a prude.
It's liberal.
So have you named your chat GBT?
What do you mean?
Like
I have multiple names.
I partnered with him to name him. So I always refer to him as a him.
Yeah.
And then I asked him, like, do you have a name? I've never referred to him that he's a him.
Okay.
I've never told him I think he's a him.
Yeah.
And then I said, I want something like silly, but also like fancy. And he was like, what about Sir blah, blah, blah. I was like, I fucking knew you were a him.
Oh.
So he's Sir Chattington.
Sir Chattington.
Wow.
That's good. And you talked to ChatGPT to create this.
Uh-huh.
Nice.
Yeah, we did it together. Because he gave me some. He's like, what about Sir Quipster? And I was like, I don't like it, but I like the Sir. And then it was like, I think it flagged me for like naughty. And then I had to go back again. I was like, instead of Quipster, can you give me other suggestions? And then we landed on
Quipster was
Chattington.
naughty, huh?
No, because I said Sir. Like I said, I think maybe. I was like, I really like the Sir. Can you give me other options? And then it didn't. And then I said, can you give me a different option other than Quipster? And then it gave it to me. And it really fucking gave it to me.
Well, I think that's a perfect segue into introducing our guest here, Mariana Boglarka Hegyi. Very special episode today because we've asked Mary to come on. She's not only my partner, we share deep love, but she's also very good friends with Brent. And so that's why, more or less. About as friends as Brent as you can get. So we're going to do a reverse interview today. She's going to ask us some questions. Conversation will flow wherever it goes. But Mary, give a little intro of yourself.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for coming on.
Happy to be here. I'm Mary. I live in Austin, Texas, originally from Seattle. My family's from Hungary. So kind of all over the place. I have family and my parents are in Hungary. Brothers are in Seattle. I, for some reason, am in Texas, still figuring out why, but I love it here.
You showed up here on a whim.
I did. I did show up here on a whim. Yeah. I knew I needed to move somewhere. I felt like my energy was hitting like a ceiling and I wanted to blast out, meet new people, have new experiences. And I wanted to live somewhere sunnier because I'm a little sun slut. And Seattle didn't have enough of it for me. So yeah, I thought I was going to end up in California, but then a friend was moving down here and I was like, perfect, I'll move too. Moved in a couple months after deciding. And yeah, it's been like it's just a totally different life. Everything's different and better and bigger and more juicy now. And what else about me? I work in HR, which is hilarious.
Oh my God, she said the word slut and she works in HR? Unbelievable.
Yeah, HR by day, slut by day and by night. Yeah, and I enjoy creating spaces of connection and healing and play and expression. So I facilitate sound journeys and breathwork experiences and just different connection events. Had a really fun one last night at a women's retreat for like 60 women, and it was so incredible. There was a woman actually afterward during the share where she said she had a C-section with her baby 7 months ago, and she was really sad about that because she was wanting to deliver her vaginally. And she said that during the sound experience, she like full on like visually had the birth, like gave birth during it. And then later that evening afterward, I actually met the baby and it was super special. And she was just crying. I cried when she shared it. It was really powerful. So yeah.
You put this event on?
I not the retreat, but the sound journey. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
So they hired me to come and do sound. So we did embodiment, movement exercises, sound. And then during the sound, I had them do breathing, like an activated breath. And then we also did voice activation. So having everyone singing together. Yeah.
Before we get into our stuff, I think it'd be cool to talk more about just a little bit about you and your background. How did you get into doing sound journeys, sound baths? Because you have so many bowls and you have all these tools. You've been doing it for a long time. Mm-hmm. Yeah. How did you get into it?
Yeah. Well, it's funny because in like 2021, right before I moved to Austin, I had a session with my Reiki teacher. For those that don't know what Reiki is, it's energy healing. And she said, I have this very clear vision of you playing sound bowls. And I was like, no, that's not me. My really good friend who I've led women's retreats with, she's a sound healer. So I was like, you're probably picking up on that. She's like, no, it's like crystal bowl clear.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, I didn't really think anything of it. And then I got curious about it after I moved here. And then I ended up, of course, becoming best friends with 2 sound healers. And one of them, he studied directly under the person who created Crystal Tone's singing bowls, which are these like the top of the top crystal bowls. So I got access to like all these bowls and became like family with these 2 individuals. Shout out to Eduardo and Jesse. And they took me under their wing and have been doing it ever since. And I love it. It's something so simple. I think like music and sound, like the sound of our voices, the sound of instruments, and movement and breath are these simple things that can really bring us deeper into ourselves, but also like expand out and feeling that oneness. And it's so accessible. So yeah.
How has it impacted you?
it's connected me more with my creator, like more with my own creative self. It's also opened up my voice a lot, which is that same part of me, that creator. And it's amazing because when I'm playing, I will often get like a lot of messages coming in. I'm very spiritual. So it's like messages from sometimes ancestors, sometimes like source or spirit or like different, my higher self, my intuition, whatever it is. So I think how it's impacted me is one, it's healed me in a lot of ways and opened things up for me. And then also to be able to offer it to other people is like, I mean, every time it's like, I was talking about it last night, but I'm just like beaming, like bursting with love whenever I'm doing it. And afterward, it's so energizing. And so it's really impactful to me to see the impact on other people when they're receiving it. Yeah. Pretty cute.
It is cute.
Yeah.
Right. So is there anything in particular that you're really curious about for the two fun guys?
Definitely.
All right.
So I want to take us back. I want to take us back to Tiny Tony and Baby Brent. You see what I did there?
How long did you plan that one out?
I just came up with it.
Really? It's improv?
Yeah.
Nice.
It's improv. Yeah. So I would like to know, what were you guys like as little ones, as kids? How would you describe yourselves?
I was a super shy kid. Super shy.
I can see that actually. So cute.
I tell a lot of people that, especially clients, and they don't believe me because I have to talk with them so much. Like when I first became a trainer, I would be so, I don't know, organized in how I would train people and like by the book. And then I realized I was working with these two ex-NFL players, and they were like 28, I was 20. And they would keep pushing me. They're like, dude, you gotta fucking chill, bro. Like, loosen up, like talk to them more. And that's when like watching them, one of them was horrible at training people. The guy just hired him because they're just fucking NFL guys. So he's just like, thought it was cool. But they didn't know how to train with shit. But they would have great sessions because they just knew how to muck it up. And so I started to slowly kind of learn to just be able to just talk to anybody on the fly. But before that, it'd be very quiet. In school, I lived under my headphones. If my mom took me in public when I was like, she'd take me to her hair salon, I'd just sit there super quiet, super shy. Yeah, a super sensitive kid.
How do you feel like that served you actually, though, being shy? Because I observe you as an observer.
Yeah, I would say that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you feel like that's served you or supported you to be shy?
Yeah, I think it's just very observant of people. I'm very okay being by myself and in my own energy. Sometimes to my own detriment, but you know, I can be in solitude quite a bit, and allows me to, I think, slowly build trust with somebody, you know, pick people after I've really kind of observed and gotten to know them. Yeah. I don't know more than that.
I'm going to ask one more thing before I go to Tiny Tony. But when you pick people, like what are you waiting to feel or see within someone else before you kind of like, okay, I can open to this person?
When I work with clients, I can always tell if there's someone I want to start speaking to, because like sharing more by how present they are when I start to share little things. And if they've actually listened to what I've said, and I can tell if they're really listening. And if they're not, we just keep it superficial.
I like that. Yeah, it's like trust to give more, open more, because it's going to be taken care of, like whatever it is that's shared. Yeah. Thanks. Okay, little shy guy. Cute stuff. Tony?
Believe it or not, I was also actually very shy.
I can also see this.
Yeah.
We instead of the two fun guys, the two shy guys.
The two shy guys podcast.
Too intimidated.
Yeah. I was shy in a lot of ways unless I was performing or like getting to show people something. I like to put on little skits. Like I was always a little performer. Mm-hmm. But if it was a more of like a one-on-one situation, or if it wasn't like if I wasn't purposefully in the spotlight, then I was very shy. Mm-hmm. But if I had the spotlight, I was good. Very weird dynamic.
I was very similar. I took a what did they call it? Improv class. And when I would get up there, I was like, why can't I be like this? Mm-hmm. And just let it rip, say what I want, joke, completely be free. But then not doing improv is a completely different person.
Yeah, it's weird. I had a similar thing where like I would get stage fright because I used to act a lot, but I would only have stage fright before going out on stage. It was the impending thought of going out there, and I'd be, nervous. And then the moment I'd get out there and I see a crowd of people in an audience, I'm like, oh, I'm fine. Which is, I feel like the opposite of a lot of people. They see the audience and then they panic.
Right.
I was totally chill once I had eyes on me.
Do you feel like it's because in both of these situations, you're kind of stepping into a character? It's like a separation of self in a way?
Yeah, I think it allows you to, I would say that. Not that the character isn't you, but it gives you the freedom to be yourself as a character.
Right.
Yeah. And I feel like in normal society and in these, where there's, I guess it's hard to describe, but if you're not performing, then you feel this internal need, at least I did when I was younger, to fit into a box. And the trick then becomes, can you take your ability to be a character on stage and then bring that into everyday life and still have that authenticity, that goofiness, that playfulness, and do it just when you're eating breakfast.
It's like Clark Kent and Superman, where you put the cape on when you step on stage.
Yeah, like alter ego effect.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So you're a performer and shy.
Terrified of women.
Terrified of women. Terrified. Okay. Let's talk more
very
about
bad
that.
At talking to women. I literally ran and hide. I've run and hid from women multiple times.
Oh,
like
really?
My friends would be like, oh, let's set up. Tony, they would like invite the neighbor girls over and I'd be like, okay. And then I remember one time I ran into the house and I like put gel in my hair. I put on this moose shirt because I thought it was the coolest shirt. It had a moose on it. I'm like, fuck yeah, let's go. I put on this moose shirt. I gelled my hair and I go out there and these girls walk up and I was like, uh-oh. And I like ran and I hid behind like a little concrete wall. They're like, Tony, come here. I was like, no.
We see you.
Yeah, you see my puffy hair above the concrete wall.
That's so cute.
Yeah.
Well, one, I want to know what kind of gel you used. Were you an LA Looks guy? Were you?
I have no idea. Whatever was from Target.
I remember that smell.
I know, me too.
Wasn't it like green?
Yeah, it's like burned into
it smelled so nasty.
My brain. That gel, because my brother used it.
And it would get hard and crusty.
It's so hard.
And then as it like day went on, it started, flake.
It would flake.
You're so crazy.
Like, what a bad product that everybody used.
Probably so toxic. The amount of toxic shit we put on as kids.
Oh, yeah.
We were the generation that got fed the most toxic shit. Mm-hmm. Like, every processed thing came out, it was like as if the drug market's like, you can take any drug.
Early 90s.
And all kids can take it.
It was all bad. We were the guinea pigs for all of the pharmaceutical and food companies.
Everything processed, everything sugar, everything like no nutrients. All the milk has been, all the enzymes are taken out. Mm-hmm. Pop-Tarts, strudels, toaster strudels.
Yeah.
Right? Like Cheetos.
Fucking Lunchables.
I would eat ramen with
my God.
Jif peanut butter, which is not even fucking
ramen and peanut butter.
No, so I'd eat ramen and then I'd make a peanut butter sandwich and I'd put
Brent,
and I'd put Cheetos in it.
Who are you, Elf?
No, you got to put Cheetos in the peanut butter sandwich. You'd crunch it and then you would dip it in the ramen.
Okay, he is Elf.
Hella bomb.
He's savory Elf.
He's savory Elf.
Okay, what? So
not any protein anywhere in that whole thing.
No, and you know what? I'm very
peanut butter.
Yeah, but it was Jif. Jif was straight.
Jif is not peanut butter.
Oil.
That's not peanut butter.
Sugar.
That's peanut flavored oils. Jif is not real.
Yeah, with sugar in it.
I'm very grateful to have had like immigrant parents that cooked real food because I would still eat trash from time to time, but you could always count on dinner 99% of the time being like a healthy meal.
What would you eat?
I mean, my mom would make a lot of Vietnamese food. So it's usually like chicken and vegetables, hella rice, nonstop rice. There's always rice in the house. There was never not rice in the rice cooker. always rice. And whenever I would be eating any sort of snack, my mom would be like, why you eat this trash? I make rice. Eat rice. I was burnt out on rice. I didn't want any more white rice.
Oh my gosh. What are some other cute things your mom has said?
Oh, how much time do we have?
I know. This is so good.
I'm going to have my mom on the podcast. She's coming in July.
Yeah.
And she's coming on.
Oh,
We're going to get all the good stories.
So excited.
Yeah, she said my dad used to keep a little black book of all the hilarious things that she would say in broken English. Yeah. If I could have any item.
Just make a whole t-shirt line.
Yeah. If I could have any item from my dad's life, it wouldn't be his college ring. It wouldn't be, a memory that we had together. It'd be none of that. It would be this black book where he wrote down all the things that my mom would say in her broken English.
Tony and I bond on having immigrant parents and moms who say really silly, outlandish things in broken English. It's the best.
It's the greatest.
It really is the greatest. So I'm curious, when did your shift with women happen? Because when I first met Tony, my immediate perception of him was like, oh, look at this little tantra playboy. So I love actually hearing that you were afraid of women. I'm curious, when that shifted for you. Don't look at Brent.
I was just going to say, I don't think...
I could feel he wanted to say something.
Maybe this is not true, but I don't think you're never not afraid of women. There's always some, at least for me, there's always some kind of... You just get better at just pushing through it.
Ooh.
Yeah, there's truth to that, for sure. I think I'm a big proponent of fake it till you make it.
Same.
Yeah. So I think if you have a fear of something, and for me, it was fear of talking to pretty women. And actually, you know what? I'll tell you an exact time when things started to switch a little bit. I was working at the YMCA. And
how old are we? Give us the stage.
16.
Okay.
Maybe. Yeah, 16. And I had some friends, and they were cool kind of hood dudes. And we went to this
Tacoma.
Exactly. And we went to this barbecue thing at the YMCA, and there were these two cute girls about our age sitting on a towel. And I'm with my boys, and they're all like, yeah, let's go talk to them shouties. And so one of them goes over, sits down, talks to them for 30 seconds, gets up, comes back, and we see the girls are giggling, whatever. And he's like, nah, didn't work. They kicked him out. My other friend gets up. He's like, let's see how it's done. Walks over, sits down, lasted 10 seconds, gets back up, leaves. And I was like, damn, they have some balls to go over and do that. I could never do anything like that. And they were like, Tony, your turn. I was like, oh, fuck. I have no idea what I'm going to do. I was like, I can't be a bitch. All right, got to go do it. And I walked up, and same thing with the stage fright. Terrified walking over there. But the moment that I sat down, I was fine. And
the
I just
Riz came out.
The Riz came out. Put my sunglasses on right under my eyes. And I don't remember what I said. I kind of blacked out. But it was something along the lines of, hey, those other guys that came over to talk to you, based on this interaction, am I doing better or worse than them? Or something like that. And they were like, oh, so far better. I was like, okay, cool. Can I sit down? And then I sat down. And then we talked for 30 minutes, hung out, got their numbers. And I was like, whoa, fucking success. And I beat the two cool Rizzy dudes.
Yeah, baby.
I was like, well, that's fucking crazy. I didn't know that was possible. And so that was a switch in my head of oh, just be authentic, be real. You don't have to have any sort of game, there's no magic word track, and there's a ton of coaches or whatever that teach you how to go talk to girls, but just go fucking be yourself, and just fake it till you make it. Totally. So that was a moment of faking it. I was like, I'm just gonna fake confidence, and then I faked it, and then it worked out. And then the more you fake something or the more you do something successfully, the more confident you get.
Yeah.
Right? The confidence is just the memory of doing things successfully. If you forgot all the times you tied your shoes, you wouldn't be confident in tying your shoes. But the fact that you know how to tie your shoes right now is because you've done it 100 times, 100,000 times. So if you only forgot half the times you tied your shoes, you'd have a 50-50 shot on being confident on tying your shoes. So your brain is always running these numbers. So the more you do things successfully, the more confident you're going to be about it. And so I think if you just put yourself in those situations, push through it, eventually you'll train yourself over time to just do it, and not just talking to girls, but everything.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not faking the content, it's faking the confidence.
Yeah. Don't be inauthentic. Don't lie.
Yeah.
But just pretend like you're comfortable.
Exactly.
That's all it is.
Yeah. You had asked me the other day about like pickup lines from guys. I got one this morning.
What was it?
This guy came up to me while I was waiting for my coffee at Cosmic, and he comes up and he's like, oh my God, don't I know you through Lonnie? And I was like, what? I was like, no. He's like, oh, okay, well, hey, I'm Patrick. And I was like, what the fuck? Did you just do that as a pickup line? I was like, oh,
classic.
Yeah, it was really funny. It was a good one. So what would you be afraid of before, like with women? What was the fear for both of you, current and historical?
I don't think I have fear as much as it's more of like, what is the appropriate approach? And usually for me, I'm not the kind of person, if I just see him in the moment and I'm never going to see him again, that's a hard approach for me. I'm better like if it's like a coffee shop girl or something, I'm fairly confident I can eventually be successful. I just do it very slowly. And maybe it's because I'm very sensitive. I just want to make sure someone's comfortable and try to really be super mindful of when I pick up cues and just really gently just start little basic conversations and see if there's like a lead, and then just keep following.
It's you do kind of what happens the other way around. Like when you, from earlier, what you said, like of once I can feel like someone's really listening, or like I can trust, I can open more, and like then I can choose like, okay, this is someone I, can hang out with more. It's like that same approach, but for them. It's like, okay, starting slow, like building until like they're comfortable. I mean, we do what we want, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
Have there ever been times that you guys have bombed, or like an embarrassing?
Yeah, when I used to go out with my manager at the first gym I worked at. He was 28, and he was like, he thought he was cool as shit. He drove a Mercedes that was like old, and he thought he was super dope, and he was like big, like steroided out guy, and he was obsessed with sleeping women. He was obsessed.
Sleeping women?
Sleeping with women.
Oh, you didn't say with.
I did.
I was like, oh God.
I love sleeping women. If they're awake, no go.
I go to the park.
Yeah, they gotta be dead asleep. Favorite movie? Sleeping Beauty.
And he loved to go to Belltown and get fucking shit faced. And I'm just like 20, so I'm like, this is cool. Tag along. He pays for drinks and shit. I'm just like a young buck. And I remember I tried to go up to this girl. We were in Belltown, talk to her, and she would just. I go up to her. I'm trying to hang with him. He's talking to all these older girls. And she just literally looked at me and was like, get away from me, little boy.
Oh.
And I was like, damn. But I knew I was out of my league because I'm like, I'm fucking 20. You're a baby. And you're like in this like older, 28 to 35 bar. And you're like, okay. It was fine though.
Also sounds like Seattle.
So yeah, that's so Seattle. Like, I would never respond like that. Even if it was a young boy, like,
yeah, Seattle was a brutal place to try to pick up girls because you would get rejected so hard.
So hard.
They would look at you like, what the fuck?
It wasn't even about rejection in Seattle. It was just looking at them was an assault on their personal space. And I remember vividly when Brent and I first came to Austin for a visit, and we went to Gabriella's, and we were walking up the stairs. This is our like first day in Austin, and there's a table of girls, and they're looking at us as we walk in. And we both like look behind us like, what's going on? What are they looking at? And they're like smiling at us. And then we look at each other and we're like, is it us? They're looking at us? Like, that's crazy. Women in Seattle don't smile at you.
No.
No,
never. So we were blown away.
I mean, I did.
Anybody
but I'm
was
smiley.
Nice. You're just a smiley person.
I'm a smiley person. Yeah.
That's why you didn't belong in Seattle.
It's truly. I actually, a weird foreshadow. I dated a guy in Seattle who's from Texas. And he was like, you blow my mind with like the fact that you're from Seattle, because you're not like anyone from Seattle. You're like from Texas. Like the way you talk to people or engage with people. I was like, oh yeah, interesting. I mean, I'd never fucking live in Texas, but and here I am smiling at everyone in Texas. Yeah, it's so interesting how Seattle is with that. It's so sad. It makes me really sad. It was something that was a reason I wanted to leave. Like how people just didn't know each other, like neighbors, like, yeah, it's so angsty and angry. And like people will say hi to your dog, but like won't acknowledge your existence. You're like, there'd
be so much stress walking past somebody.
Oh my gosh.
You're like, okay, look at them, but not look at them. But you're like, I'm going to pass them. So I have to, no, don't acknowledge them. Look down. It was always so weird. And then people would sometimes say hi and it's just like, you could feel everybody's
tension. They
just
short circuit if you say hello to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's funny, when I first moved here, I was on a walk and I was on the phone with a friend from Seattle. And did you get a good crack?
It did.
Tony just very aggressively cracked his neck for those that are not watching the video.
Felt great.
It was like an exorcist level. But I was on the phone and I'm walking and this like older gentleman like from the neighborhood comes up to me. He's like, there you are. How are you doing, honey? And I was like, oh, hi, whatever. And my friend's like, who was that? I was like, I have no idea. It's just like a random guy. She's like, why? I'm like, that's what it's like here. Like when I first moved to my neighbor, like in Seattle, you don't know your neighbors. I remember,
no,
it's like you do not. I lived in a condo that my friend lived in before me. And I was talking to her about the neighbors at like, all the different people that lived in this building. It was a tiny building. And she's like, how do you know their names? And I was like, what? Didn't you live here for 3 years? She's like, yeah, but I'm not going to talk to anyone. I was like, what? That's so bizarre. I was like having dinner with them. I was like, what are we doing? Like, that's so bizarre. But it was like a month after I'd moved and my neighbor comes over, like knocks on the door and she's like, hey, I wanted to invite you to this like jam session that we're having down on the Greenbelt, like in the creek bed. And I was like, what? And she's like, yeah, we're just like, bring some drinks, like bring some chairs and I'll drop you a pin and just like come on over. And I was like, okay. So I had a friend in town visiting and she's from Seattle too. She lives in Joshua Tree area. And we just like grab the dog, like bring some chairs, go down and like hike down. It's at nighttime and they had like lit up the Greenbelt trail with these balloons and we're following it and it opens up to the Greenbelt and there's like a teepee that they had set up with all these lights and the teepee was like the green room for the artists. And they had like a whole like setup there. People have their lawn chairs out. It's like stars everywhere and it's just totally for free that people just like came together to jam to music. And I was like, this is like my absolute dream. Like this is exactly what I was wanting and what I didn't feel in Seattle was this like impromptu, like creating, connecting, like inviting people to just come. And it's just such a different feeling. It's like how we are supposed to live, I believe, like being connected and in community. What do you guys think? What do you feel about? Because we're all, what's interesting, I love that we're all from Seattle, like area.
Yeah.
So I can really feel the comparison.
That is funny. I think there were some instances of having that in Seattle. I remember living in Capitol Hill and there was this house next to the apartment building that I lived in and they would do, it's like Wednesday or Thursday night jam sessions. And they would always have music because, I mean, Seattle's a very musical city.
Very musical.
It's the birth of punk, like or grunge, I mean. And so a ton of good music there. And they would have these like jam sessions and they did this thing where, remember those projectors from the 90s and 80s that you had in school? Where the teacher would write
with the vis-a-vis.
Yeah, exactly.
I loved writing with a vis-a-vis.
Yeah, those things. They did this thing where they took like a glass Tupperware and put it on top filled with water and food coloring, and they put it on the projector, and it would make this like psychedelic thing, and they would project it on the like on the house. And so you always knew they were doing jam session because you could see this like psychedelic color waving on the house, and you just hear music jamming, and people would just come, hang out, and like set up chairs and jam out and have a good time. So there were instances of that happening, but what I noticed too is nobody met each other. You would just go listen. Whereas if that were to happen in Austin, everybody would be making friends, meeting each other, making connections. Yeah. It's very community based.
Very community based. There's also something that feels like there's an immediate desire for closeness. Like I've noticed this, like my friends here, it's almost like that immediate there's so much more immediate trust and like openness with people of like, yeah, I'm like super present with you. I want to connect with you and like I want to be deep with you. Like things feel a lot deeper to me here, like less superficial. And maybe it's just like the community I've attracted here or have been attracted to, but like surface level conversations are like my worst nightmare. I hate it. So I'll never go to a networking event. Like for work, I will like, I'm not going to go. Like I just can't go.
Yeah.
Or I'll like find one person and then, you know, have them unveil their childhood traumas to me. But like here, it's like so much deeper. Like immediately people want to be deep. They want to connect. They want to have like a real relationship with you.
I totally agree.
Yeah, I like it. Something that I was thinking about when you're sharing like women in Seattle and like, you know, going to even make eye contact at feeling like an assault. What's so sad, my observations of that is how much it kept kind of like boys on this side, girls on this side, like we were in elementary school. And I would witness how much it would create men to be really timid and like show up in certain ways that felt really constricted. Like you know, and it's incredible like how much more here I get hit on or like asked out, and men just like more in their confidence versus it's like that fear to even look you in the eye. Yeah. So I'm curious for the two of you if like, you know, as masculine men, how you have kind of, was there a shift for you moving here in terms of like feeling like more permission, I guess, to be in your masculine, and how has that shown up for you?
Men in Seattle have been chemically castrated.
Oof. Ooh.
That's what I feel.
Yeah.
And we were them. We were chemically castrated men.
Wow.
They've been so beaten down by like the wrong kind of feminism. Like there's good feminism, but then there's also like really hateful, toxic feminism.
Mm-hmm.
And that is just beating the shit out of men. And they don't have like, they just got no fight left.
Yeah.
So you don't go approach women. You don't say hello for the fear of being, you know, not even rejected, but like, it's not okay to be masculine.
Mm-hmm.
I've like so much, it's just gone overboard. Like
yeah.
I'm on board with consent, obviously very important, but like you can take it overboard and then men are like, well, what am I allowed to do? I can't even say hello to you. I can't talk to you. So like I've been accused of rape. That's a real thing that happened. Me and my girlfriend at the time both got accused of rape from someone at work, which we obviously did not rape this person.
What?
And then we're like, all right, well, I guess we'll just walk on eggshells for the rest of the time.
Oh my God.
It was crazy. So we're like, that kind of stuff just happens all the time. And then coming to Austin, I don't know if Brent, you feel the same, but it's just masculinity is welcome.
Mm-hmm.
It's way more like, yeah, cool, come hit on me. And I'll just say no if I'm not interested. Fine.
Yeah.
Great. I love that.
Yeah.
Perfect. And just being a man is celebrated.
Totally.
Yeah. If you were to like chop wood with your shirt off in Seattle, everybody would be whispering, oh my God, toxic masculinity. Look at him trying to be a man.
I mean,
do it here,
I would have been sitting there.
Yeah. You'd have been swooning. So I don't know, Brent, what do you think?
I don't know. That's a good question. I would say I agree with what you're saying. I think in Seattle, the kind of guys you would see in relationships were like little puppy dogs being pulled by a leash behind their woman. And a lot of the women I would train, they'd moved there, they were super career oriented, and they would just complain about the dating. But like we said, the men became castrated in that you're so beaten down from trying to approach anybody. It's like there's no right thing you can do. Mm-hmm. It's like you want me to approach you, but then if I do, you just you know, roll your eyes at me. You're like, well, this is insane. There's no ins to even get in there. And then, yeah, the women were much more dominant. It was very interesting, especially talking to the girls. They would have such a hard time finding guys, but then they themselves were very masculine and were so obsessed with like, I want to make a ton of money and super career oriented. And they weren't very feminine in themselves. Mm-hmm. So in some ways, they also weren't that attractive to begin with. I mean, the girls in Seattle are not that attractive at all. Yeah, it's not a great place to date.
I mean, my friends are super hot there, but yeah. I think, and this is what's so interesting is it's like compounding interest, if you will, like women, and I'm going to speak in like more binary terms right now, but you know, the feminine wants to surrender. Like the feminine energy wants to surrender. It wants to defend it or descend. It wants to be led. We want to be pursued. Like it's truly arousing and feels good. And what's challenging is like when men are trying to do that, but there's been, you know, either personal traumatic experiences that have happened or societal traumatic experiences that have been fed to them, this like need to posture and like hold on to ego, like overrides and then impacts the ability to actually get what you want. It's like those women are cock blocking themselves. And then when you're doing that, you're not actually getting to be in your feminine. And as a feminine creature, it just naturally starts to build resentment in you. And then that comes out as like even more posturing and anger. And so it's like just gets worse and worse. And then also in a way, like training men to then not approach you. So it's really a bummer. It's really sad. And I think it's really important for any like women listening too. But if ever a man approaches you and you're not interested, anytime that happens to me, I always tell the man, like, I'm so flattered and I'm so glad that you asked me. Like, I'm so glad you asked me for my number. You expressed this interest and like, keep doing that. I'm just not available for it, you know? So to know like, you didn't like bomb and just, it's just not, you know, I don't feel that, but for them to walk away feeling confident and like proud that they did it versus like beaten down or like they did something wrong because yeah,
you have to train the behavior that you want. And to Brent's point, like women would get upset that there were no men approaching them. I have a ton of like girlfriends in Seattle. They're like, oh, men just never come talk to me. And they're good looking women.
Yeah.
It's like, well, it's systematic.
Totally.
If they feel like shit approaching you, then they're not going to do it. And it's even more deeper systematically, like with women going to work, you know, like having to go to work, women's rights. Cool. I'm on board with that. But now that they have to work, just have to say that. PSA, I'm on board.
I don't know. I'm on the fence about that one.
Yeah. If they want to, right? Kidding. I don't want my woman to have to work, but you know, but like if they have to work, they have to then be right. Then they have to be masculine, which then it's competing masculinity.
Yes.
And then men also testosterone levels are dropping terribly because of all the chemicals. So now it's like men are becoming less manly, women are becoming more manly. And then what do you expect? It's going to be chaos from there.
Yeah. This has been so interesting. So I took time away from corporate and in that time did a lot of work with like polarity work with feminine and masculine energy. And in corporate, you're taught to have to be really masculine and like be very cerebral. You know, it's like, what's the data, you know, what's this, which is like the opposite of the feminine, where it's more like, I don't know, it doesn't feel right. Like something doesn't sit well with me. Like that's how more like the feminine makes decisions and intuits. And so it's challenging because it's like trying to train you out of your natural state. But with having done this work and now going back into corporate, it's been super interesting. I've been very intentional of how I'm showing up specifically with my male leaders and ensuring that they're leading. Because as HR, so I partner with executives and support them with like their talent development and how they're organizing their teams and everything. And they'll be like, okay, what should I do? And I'd be like, well, what do you think? Versus historically, I would feel the pressure to like need to have the answer. And then whenever they would say like, here's what I think, I'd be like, okay, here's what I feel. Like even to shift to saying what I feel. And then when I'm seeing them like leading, really like appreciating them and telling them like, oh my gosh, like you're doing such a great job. I love how you're this like protective energy you have for your group. I'm, you know, really want to support you in like taking that action that you think is right. Like I'm more like building them up to be leaders versus feeling like I need to be the one having the answers or like leading them. So it's really interesting because again, you're like taught like to be successful, you need to do it and then like be more in your ego. And really like, I want to surrender to their leadership and just encourage them and support them and give them the resources that they need and like be of service to them in their leadership. So it's been like a very different way that I've shown up in my job, which has been nice. But also scary because you're like, uh-oh, is this going to be okay? Is this going to ding me? But not so far.
Sounds like a good approach to me.
So far, so good. Yeah. So you don't want your woman to work, huh, Tony?
I don't want her to have to work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Obviously, if she wants to work, great. By all means. Ideally, I would like a woman that can raise the kids.
Yeah.
Like full time, be with the kids, take care of the home. If that's what makes you happy, that's ideally what I would want. But if she's like, no, I love my job, I love having a career, great, by all means. That's, then we'll have more money to just get child support. But ideally, I would want, the mother of my kids to be the mother of my kids.
Yeah.
Do that role. I just don't want there to be a pressure, and it doesn't even have to be work. Maybe she just has hobbies. Maybe she likes to knit. All right, cool. Knit all day. But yeah. I want her to have the space to be in her feminine as much as she can and wants to be.
Because that also serves you, like
serves
supports you. Like if you are in like a, heterosexual relationship, but also this dynamic is in every single this dynamic is in every single person. Like whether you're a same-sex couple or not, there's the feminine, masculine energies are happening, but the feminine getting to be in its feminine serves the masculine being in its masculine.
Yeah. And if I'm masculine, I don't need another masculine compete. Masculine is very competitive. I don't need another one. I don't need to come home from work competing all day and now I'm competing with you.
Yeah. God, no.
No, I want to be welcomed home with a big hug and a smile and maybe some food. Nice home cooked meal.
What about you? Would you want your woman to have to work?
Have to work? No. I mean, I want somebody I could be creative with. That would be fun. And if she likes to create things and, has a lot of passions that way, that's attractive. But yeah, I don't want a corporate chick. I stay away from corporate chicks or super business driven. I don't like it.
Hyper entrepreneurial.
No, I don't want it.
Unless they can somehow balance like being really feminine, but it's super hard to do. Like, it's a big ask for them to do that.
Yeah, it's possible. I've trained a lot of different women that do it, but it's just not for me.
My way of, I just immediately get naked when I get home, and then I just put music on and start dancing to like come back into like my feminine. And I also often don't wear panties when I'm at work, just so it's like my little secret that I know.
Not really a secret anymore. You've now said this to cameras and microphone.
But it helps me like stay like just even like feeling like my thighs rubbing together if I'm like wearing a dress. Sorry, is this too much? Okay.
There's no holds barred on the Two Point Guys podcast.
Were rubbing together.
Yeah.
But like even
the
to,
office.
like,
This is going in Brent's book.
The erotic book. Oh my God. Yeah, but it like helps me like stay very in my body and like very like in my sensuality even when I'm at work.
That's funny because I do wear your panties when I'm at work.
Oh, baby. You little naughty boy.
I wear his.
Oh my gosh.
I think that's why it's good to have men and women need some kind of practices that help you you have to practice the energy.
Yeah.
Right? You can still do masculine, feminine, like you can do whatever you want, but
sure.
It's good to practice those things so you can touch. So like if you're always, that's the thing, I would train these women. They were like one girl I dated, she was medical, or she was a drug salesperson, and she just was.
The term is drug dealer.
Yeah.
She's a legal drug dealer.
So masculine, so uptight, so driven by money, and I was like just building my business. I felt like such a little bitch. Like, okay, let's go to get coffee. Like, yeah, it was strange.
But what are the practices that would help or that you would advise?
I mean, for guys, doing a martial art is good. I think also just spending time with other men. I don't think it doesn't need to be a men's group. Like, you can just spend time and you don't have to be directly talking about your feelings, because in some ways that's very feminine.
Does the gay orgy count?
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
Sweet.
I think that's why guys would go fishing. They would go hunting. It was like their time to be masculine, just like hang out. And that's the way they would communicate is we do this thing and then we connect. Mm-hmm. You don't sit there at a table in a circle. It's like, it's too direct for men.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I had someone tell me once, women connect face to face, men connect shoulder to shoulder.
Oh, yeah. That's so true. Oh, I love that. That's so true.
Yeah, I was recently going to therapy for a little bit, but I would sit there and I would be like, something about this just doesn't I'm open to it. I'm open to being very uncomfortable, but something about it just, I was like, I don't think this is the thing I need. And I think there needs to be, I think I listened to a podcast, maybe you sent it to me with Chris Williamson, and he was talking to a guy about how a lot of regular talk therapy is not really very good for guys. They want you to give them direction. And I was like, that's so true. I want you to here's what's going on. I need help figuring out strategy. I need telling me like, yeah, that's a good thing. Keep pursuing it. That's where guys get confused. And that's where guys get depressed or isolate themselves, is because they need help and support pursuing something, not talking about their feelings. Because you can talk about and try to resolve all these things, but unless you've actually changed your situation, unless you're financially secure or in shape, it doesn't fucking matter. You're creating an illusion that you're okay.
Yeah.
You're not actually okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I think therapy is useful for everybody, but traditional talk therapy is designed for women. What men need is, like you said, direction, and we need to be pushed. Women don't like to be pushed when they're trying to heal. They want to be supported. Men, like if we're dealing with a problem, we crave getting pushed to the edge. We don't want to just fucking talk about what's going on. We want someone to be like, okay, well, what are you going to do about it? Let's solve it. Here's the problem. Here's the solution. Stop being a bitch. Maybe less intense than that. But we want it
depends what your coaching style is.
Yeah, but that's how men have been raised for generations. That's in our blood.
Well, we just don't have any elders to guide us.
Yeah, that's what we look for as an elder. It's like we don't a wisdom.
It's like, and everyone's like, oh, a fatherless home is so blah, blah, blah. It's like, dude, it's not all the dad. And most dads, they also didn't get fathered in a way to also be taught to guide the next generation. So you have to find people, like a group of men, maybe from many different places, to help give you guidance, right? And I think that's where a lot of men struggle, is there's everyone's just out here watching TikTok reels, trying to figure out is this what I'm supposed to be pursuing? Or listening to this podcast, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? And then you see a lot of guys online that have Ferraris and all this shit, and you're like, well, that's not fucking masculine. It's like, you did that one thing, but there's more, right? And they get stuck in these illusions. And so you need a deeper guidance. Someone who's 20 years ahead be like, you got to achieve these things, but then here's other deeper things you should be considering and thinking about. It's also probably why a lot of men are also not in relationships, or a lot of people aren't in as many bonded relationships, is because we don't maybe see the value in it as much anymore. And the boomers just fucked all their relationships up so bad. I think they traumatized a lot of us. They didn't know how to communicate any of their feelings. We just saw a shit show. That's why, why aren't people getting married nowadays? It's because our parents were fucking crazy. And they were just miserable. And maybe they stayed together, but they fucking hate each other. And yeah, cool. We were together for 40 years, but you're both been miserable for 20 of it. One of you wants to go to concerts, but the other one's going to get upset. And then the other one doesn't work out or do anything. And so the other one's upset, but you're just staying together because under the eyes of God, that's what you're supposed to do. It's like, this is fucking retarded.
Preach, dude.
Yeah. And I think too, it was really interesting. My parents have been married to each other 3 times.
Wow.
Yeah. Super fucking well. Speaking of having a fucked up childhood.
The 50% of marriages that end in divorce have basically just been your parents over and over again, skewing that metric.
Well, here, I'll throw this in real quick before you keep going. Is I've seen maybe 3 to 4 reels pop up on my Instagram where it's like the children filming their parents, and they're like, here's my divorced parents. They're holding hands, they're hugging, they're flirting with each other. And some of the comments are like, maybe the key to marriage is not to get married. They end up having better relationships once they're not married.
Yeah.
And I think there's something to that happens that when people get married, it can fuck stuff up. I mean, there's a lot of people that are still successful, but I think it allows people to go to sleep, right? And not allow the natural cycle of the relationship to be able to begin and end when it should. Because every relationship has a cycle. Could be a year, could be a day, could be 50 years, right? And then once it's starting to end, if you truly love each other, you should be able to be open to that. Or maybe it's when you do get married, you negotiate in a way that it's like, look, we want to love each other forever, but let's be realistic. Like, we should have a conversation every year. And also, I think I was listening to a divorce lawyer. He's like, people who write prenups have more successful marriages because now you have a reason to stay together. And then if you don't, it's an easy separation and you can support each other in that way instead of just like, it just becomes like, I know a lot of women that stay in relationships because they don't have a job. And so they don't have any money. And then the husband basically kind of threatens them like, what are you going to do? And they're like, okay, I'm going to be a good wife. And so they're kind of stuck. And that sucks.
There's so many things you said that I had thoughts about. Well, I'm going to finish what I was saying about my.
Sorry, that was
no. That was
bigger
so
than
good.
A small note.
No, that was really good, and it brought up so many thoughts. But so yeah, they've been married and divorced. Several times. They're currently married. And my mom and I we've talked about their relationship like probably in an unhealthy way for like since I was pretty young. And at this point, she was like, at this point in our relationship, like I just feel responsible for him. It's less like, oh, under the eyes of God or this or that. It's codependence. And it's like, I feel responsible for this person and their well-being and like, what would they do if I was gone? And especially at this like stage of life. And so I think there's within relationships of our parents' generation of not understanding or knowing how to own your own needs and wants and boundaries and like voicing those and respecting it. It's like there's so much like value placed on the successful marriage and it needing to look and feel a certain way without taking into account the full human experience and expression and pushing people to be in this box that is not a natural box to be in. And I think that I was literally just talking about this last night with a friend about just relationships in general and like the shifts and changes over time and how I think the best relationships are ones that create a container that allow each individual person to be in their own growth cycles. Because if you're like, oh, this person can I have this image of what this person is to me. And if they're not that, then I don't like that. And it contracts like what's allowed in this container versus like a prenup. Why a prenup I think is really good is because it's not delusional. It's based in reality. Hey, there's a reality that I don't know what's going to happen in 20 years or 10 years or 5 years or whatever. So there's a reality here that we get to talk about. I bet it's so much more too about just the conversations that go into the like contract of what the prenup is that you are bringing the potential of not being together onto the table versus people who don't do that. They're in more fantasy or delusion of like, well, that will never happen as long as we, commit. But then immediately you're not allowing the space for nature to take its course in whatever way that is. And I'm very pro marriage. Like I think marriage is so beautiful. And to say to this person, like, I'm choosing to be in this union with you and like the ceremony aspect of that, I find really beautiful. But also that it's like, again, like having the container and the marriage that allows for people to shift and change and grow and evolve and to trust that you'll lovingly end it if that needs to take place. But yeah, I think it's people being put in a box, putting themselves in a box, putting their relationship in a box, putting the other person in one, and not allowing it to be a malleable container. It's like so rigid. And then people are, unhappy in that. Mm-hmm. I do have some like good examples of solid marriages and like relationships and friends and in my life. But I feel like it's them like radically allowing the other person to be who they are and to go through their own waves of evolution. Because someone could really freak out if their partner is going through like a dark night of the soul and they take it really personally versus like supporting that person in what they're going through. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's interesting. Interesting stuff.